Megan, Megan, my sweet, sweet Megan. Why is everybody up in arms about you? Let's talk about it. All right, so I'm a little late. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little late. Megan Thee Stallion dropped a documentary on Amazon that I just watched, and she dropped a deluxe to her Megan Act One album. She dropped an Act Two, which was like 13 extra songs. Side note, hey, just make it a separate album. Like 13 extra songs is not a deluxe. That's a whole new album. So we have a lot to talk about here with Megan. First, we're gonna start off with the Megan Thee Stallion documentary. For one, full transparency, I am not a fan of artists who aren't at legendary status getting documentaries made about them. Now, this is totally different. Megan's story and the story that she pretty much focused on and what the main point of this documentary was is something completely different. And it is something that we, as rap fans, have never seen before. We've never seen the main thing that happened in Megan Thee Stallion. We've never seen it in hip hop before. She is the first rapper to ever get shot by another rapper. That is a big deal. Like, imagine if Kanye West shot Eminem or Ludacris shot Lil Flip. Like, this has never happened before. Now, rappers have gotten into fights. Rappers have threatened to shoot each other. Rappers' entourages have gotten into fights and shootings and stabbings. Rappers have been shot and stabbed by other entourages. Megan was shot by another rapper. That has never happened before. Okay, so I'm okay with her getting her producing and making a documentary about the shooting that happened with Tory Lanez. Like, this is pretty much the main theme of the story. And just to give my quick thoughts on the documentary, um, her come up kind of reminds me a little bit of Kanye West in terms of how influential her mother was to her. So like how Kanye West's mom was just like instilling all these values and confidence into Kanye, saying like, "Hey, you're great as you are with the art and the fashion, the type of sounds that you make." Megan's mom instilled in her like, "Hey, you're beautiful, you're black, you're tall. All of that is fine and great and perfect." And she instilled that kind of confidence to kind of help mold and build up the Megan Thee Stallion character. The I guess the Clark Kent to her Superman, you know, the her alias, so to speak. Um, so there was a lot of things that I won't say a lot, but there was a few things that I learned watching this documentary. I don't know if it's spoilers or not because this documentary kind of came out a few months ago. I did not know that while Megan Thee Stallion was kind of blowing up as a rapper, that when her mom got sick and passed away, that Megan had to pull the plug on that. Like, I thought that Megan Thee Stallion's mom just passed away, with whatever medical condition she had, and that was it. Turns out she had like a brain tumor, kind of went, was brain dead for the most part, and Megan Thee Stallion had to make a choice to be like, all right, do I just leave her as a vegetable or do I pull the plug on her? And I couldn't imagine having to make that kind of decision either with my parent, with a spouse, with a child, even with a friend. Like, that's a major, major decision to have to make and live with when you consider that Megan Thee Stallion's mother was her anchor. Like, she was the one that kind of guided her through her come up and was the person that she could lean on when she didn't know what to do, when there were too many voices around her. Her mom was the person that she could lean on. And the fact that she lost her mom right as she was blowing up kind of led her into, I don't want to say her downfall, but kind of led her astray in a way because as she speaks about in the documentary, she kind of fell into alcoholism. Like she became an alcoholic, and the whole driving the boat, going to college tours and campuses and all that stuff, and taking shots everywhere she goes. You can kind of get lost in that, and it's easy to get lost in that when you're touring, living on the road, having to live the lifestyle of a rapper. It's got to be tough, and it's even like fame is like, okay, I'm not speaking as a famous person, obviously, but fame is hard to deal with on its own. Having to deal with fame without the person that you could lean on the most has to be even tougher. And it's a great thing that Megan Thee Stallion only fell into alcoholism and not some sort of like hard drug like coke or fentanyl or something like that. Like it could have been way worse for her. Um, and I know this documentary is supposed to be like super serious, and it's about mental health and sobriety, protecting black women, things of that nature. But I did find it kind of funny because there is a little bit of like animation cartooning in this documentary. The way they depicted Tory Lanez to be like the same height as Megan Thee Stallion, I thought that was hilarious. Like that was pretty funny to me. Like we've all seen the video of him doing the freestyle, sitting down, and then he stands up and he's still the same height. Like he's a short man, and I say that as a short king. Like he is not Megan Thee Stallion height. But yeah, as the documentary kind of goes forward, it kind of unlocked a few things that I kind of forgot about Megan Thee Stallion's career and her come up. I forgot all the super stupid, silly commentary that was behind her song with Cardi B, the WAP song. I completely forgot how corny people were, and it wasn't mostly just people. It was a lot of dudes. A lot of guys were like, "Oh, I don't like women rapping about their pussy and shaking ass and sucking." Like, what are we talking about? Who doesn't want to hear that from a woman? Like, you'd rather hear that from a guy? You like hearing guys talking about throwing dick around as a man? That's what you want to hear? Like, let's be serious. Like, we were doing a lot in 2020. Maybe it was a pandemic. Maybe it was just the whole podcast wave and people wanted to make a name for themselves. But the idea of listening to two very attractive women rap about being sexually active and doing nasty things with men, as a man, why wouldn't you want to hear that? Because other women are going to want to dance to music like that or portray that kind of stuff. And they might want to do that with you. But they're probably not, because you're acting like a weirdo. Okay? Like, we gotta get past some of this stuff, man. We're like, you want to listen to Rick Ross talk about sex? Rap about sex? No, thank you. Give me more Megan Thee Stallion. A little less Cardi B, because Cardi B keeps getting smoked by her on every track that they do. But anyways, I thought it was another interesting part was her management kind of letting her go out there in that Gayle King interview and lying about sleeping with Tory Lanez. Like, it was, even rewatching it, it was super obvious that she was lying. Super obvious. Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she did it or not. It just looked bad that she lied about it, because now people are going to question, well, if you lied about one thing, you'll lie about anything. I think she should have just came out and just said, yeah, I did it. That doesn't change any of the other facts outside of that. That doesn't change the fact that Tory got a gun and shot you in the foot. Saying you slept with him doesn't change the fact. Now, perception-wise, it just looks bad, and you're just giving people more ammo to kind of discredit you. And a lot of people did try to discredit her. Like, I forgot how big of a conversation this was. Like, everybody was talking about it, and everybody was saying that she was lying and that it was not true, and it didn't happen. And I get it. I get how that can affect you mentally and physically, to when you're someone that kind of lives online, having every day to see this kind of stuff. Like, there was one person on there that said that Tory should have shot her, and I'm like, okay, what? Like, okay, now we're going a little bit too far with this whole. Like, I get, like, Tory Lanez had a kind of small fan base, but they were like, where did all these Tory Lanez fans come from? Because before Megan got shot, I ain't hear not a single word about no Tory Lanez. And now all of a sudden we need to defend his catalog and his discography, and he's one of the greatest up and coming rappers and R&B singers. Like, I don't, like, okay. If you hate Megan that much, just say that. But you don't have to lie about Tory Lanez. Like his music isn't. He's not some great once in a. He's not. He's not Chris Brown. He's not. Uh, JID. He's not Jake. Like he's not an all time great. No one's. He's not in anybody's top 10, top 5, anything. So let's stop with that. And I kind of am curious as to how Megan's perception would have been had she just told the truth in that Gayle King interview. If Gayle asked her, "Hey, did you have sex with Tory Lanez?" and if Meg would have said, "Yeah, 1 or 2 times," how does that change the way people perceive this case? And I think it probably does a little bit because people like to slut shame people. So, but I do think it would have helped her for the better. I think her management let her down, and her manager let her down, and the people around her let her down by letting that question get asked and letting that question get aired to the public. And I'm trying to think of how to really word this, but I wonder how Megan's case, how her getting shot by Tory is perceived or received if she doesn't present herself as such an overtly sexual person, right? Like she's a very dominant. This is what I want. This is what I like. If you can't do it, get away from me. If the same situation happens, but instead of Megan Thee Stallion, it's Little Sims. Little Sims is not like overtly as sexual and as revealing as Megan Thee Stallion. Rhapsody, the same kind of way. Like she does rap about sex, but she doesn't. She kind of is a little bit more tomboyish. Young M.A. If one of those 3 female rappers gets shot by Tory Lanez, are people running to discredit them because they aren't as revealing physically, or they're not wearing skimpy clothes? Like I'm kind of like I there's a part of me that really wants to see the alternate timeline where breaking news, instead of Megan Thee Stallion getting shot, it's I don't want to put that on anybody, but it's another rapper who doesn't present as Megan Thee Stallion, because I feel like a lot of this stuff comes from, at least the commentary, the negative commentary that came towards Megan Thee Stallion. I feel like it came from an insecurity from men that don't know how to deal with a dominant, black, tall, confident woman that knows what she wants sexually and is going to either get it from you, or if you can't provide it, get it from someone else. And I would recommend this documentary. I thought it was a very good insight to what she's been going through and how she viewed things. I think I think it's fair for her to have a voice and share her side of things, because if you really go back to when this happened, like around 2020, a lot of people have made a lot of content and a lot of money off of the Megan Thee Stallion trial, shooting, case. And it's not the Megan Thee Stallion shooting, like she got shot, but she didn't press charges against Tory. The state of California did. So a lot of people made money, got famous, got popular off of Megan's trauma. So why can't Megan make some money off of her own trauma? Like I'm totally fine with that. Like if you never want to talk about this again, I'm completely fine with that. If you want to make a documentary about it and make some money off of it, I'm fine with that too. If anybody should capitalize and profit off of your trauma, it should be you. So now we're going to go into Megan's double disc album, is what I'm pretty much going to call it. But before we get into that, I need you guys to like and subscribe to the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on. I am actively trying to get these videos out every day, a video a day. That's the goal. So yeah, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the likes and the views and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna kind of start with Act 2 of the album. I think Act 2 is more of my bag. It's more Tina Snow. It's more that Southern Texas, not really more so chopped and screwed, but it has that more Third Coast feel to it. When it comes to Megan, no matter the hits, she can always lean on culture. And I think that is a big thing in rap. And I think that's one of the main things that rappers should never forget about, no matter how big or commercial or pop they go. they have to always be able to rely on where they come from. Like you can listen to songs like Everything Bigger in Texas, Bourbon, Motion, Miami Blue, Accent. Those are all specific sounding sounds that sound like where she's from. She is rapping like someone from Houston, Texas. And that is something that I think is kind of missing in rap, that kind of regional sound. Like Kendrick did it a lot with, his Not Like Us and Like That, and the stuff he did against Drake. I feel like that is an important aspect. I feel like Atlanta still does that, even though that sound might be a little bit redundant, but like people in Detroit, Chicago, Memphis, they all have their own sound, and I think that kind of needs to be a little bit more accented. Like we need a little bit more of that. I feel like the best features on there, Flo Milli, Glorilla, obviously. Like Flo Milli is one of my favorite artists, favorite rappers. I everything Flo Milli does, I'm a fan of. Everything. I love her, respectfully. But yeah, the features worked for me. The features that I didn't like are kind of the ones with the Asian artist. Not really a super fan of that, just because of like if I can't really understand what you're saying, it's hard for me to like really vibe with that. Um, Outside of that, like I thought the features were good. I thought the Flo Milli feature was the best one. I think Megan is growing as an artist and improving in terms of versatility. Like as far as like she can go into her mixtape rapping bag, her commercial rap, pop songs. She even has some rock songs on there. She even had a few R&B vibes on there. She showed a lot of vulnerability. I thought there were a couple of missed opportunities as far as like, why not have Rico Nasty on TYG? Like that's an easy layup for her. Another thing that I respect about Megan is on the remix to Mahashi. I don't know what to say, but like the super popular song that she has. She did a remix to the song, had another artist on there, another Asian artist on there, but she wrote another verse for it. That is something that is getting lost in today's music when it comes to putting out a remix. Nowadays, it's you do a song and then the remix is the same song but just another verse from a different artist. Back in the day, back in my day, you did a song and the remix, they would either change the beat and you would have to write another verse, and then maybe they would throw another feature verse on there. But you always had to write another verse for the remix. You just couldn't do the same verse again because it's not really a remix. So the two main points that I really want to harp on with this album that I think are very important is from Act One, very first song, Hiss. At some point, we're gonna have to talk about how this is one of the most impactful diss tracks like ever. Like we're talking impact, like the amount of bars she put out there, the type of shots that she threw, and the way people responded to it. Now she kind of smacked Drake around that whole song, like threw shots at him all over the place. Now Drake threw shots first, and Megan responded in time. And for her to respond, like Drake pretty much threw a jab, and Megan Thee Stallion threw a nuke back at him. And Megan embarrassed Drake so hard on this diss song that Nicki Minaj decided to jump in front of this. Now I think there were some shots thrown at Nicki Minaj on this song also, but the fact that Nicki Minaj felt the need to respond so quickly kind of shows how impactful this diss record was. Now I kind of wish, I feel like there's an alternate universe where Drake and Nicki Minaj both go at Megan Thee Stallion, and Megan Thee Stallion goes back and forth with those two. And if that happens, maybe we don't get the Kendrick Drake back and forth, But I kind of wish, even though I didn't think Bigfoot was the greatest response Nicki Minaj could have put out there, I'm kind of disappointed that Megan didn't go engage with her back and forth, even though she spent the first 3 songs on Act One throwing shots at Nicki Minaj, So I kind of wish that there was a little bit more back and forth between those two. I would have loved to see, a back and forth in a rap battle between a female and a male rapper, like her and Drake. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure who comes out on top of that. I'm not saying that Megan is a better rapper than Drake, but if you listen to his and then listen to some of the other diss records Drake has put out, they're not that far apart. I'll say that. And the second thing that I want to kind of shine a light on, and I think it's very important, that Megan Thee Stallion is the first artist to get an unreleased verse from Pimp C from UGK. Like I remember a few years ago, Pimp C's wife came out and said she has a vault full of verses, unreleased songs, hooks, beats, whatever, from the late great Pimp C. And she was like, the only person that can have access to this is Megan Thee Stallion. And that kind of leans back into the culture aspect. When you don't forget where you're from and you always kind of rep for where you're from and never forget that and always kind of have it on the forefront, people from that area will not forget that. You know, like if Megan Thee Stallion kind of blew up and then just started rapping like she was from Atlanta for the rest of her career and turned her back on Houston, Texas, I don't think Pimp C's wife is doing this. I don't think Pimp C's wife is saying like, oh, let's give her the verses. Let's give her the access. Like Megan Thee Stallion getting an unreleased verse from Pimp C is like Ice Spice getting an unreleased verse from Pop Smoke or Biggie Smalls. You know, like this is a big deal. And when this album came out and I saw there was a UGK record on here, I was like, okay, well, it's probably, you know, a remix, or, you know, she's doing a reimagination of a song they already did. No, you got two new verses from Pimp C and Bun B. Like two actual legends in Southern rap from Texas. And you can make a case they're like rap legends, like just in general, not just from Texas, not just from the South, just in general. These two guys are legends. They're, in my book, I think they're the second greatest rap duo ever. And you got an unreleased verse from them? That's massive. That's massive, and that's important. And man, I just love the fact that she was able to get that look and she was able to get that verse and be able to write a verse that fit with them. And it just sounded so much like Texas. And I wish, more people would acknowledge kind of the impact of what she did with that song. And I wish it kind of would be bigger and get talked about more. Like that's a massive deal. Like you just don't get posthumous verses from legends like this. They don't just happen every day. So, in closing, I think Act 2 from Megan's album, for me, is better than Act 1. Act 1 is it's really good, really fire. Like, I love the feature. I love the song with Big Crit on there. Miami Blue, I think I need more of that. Like, I need more of Megan, Flo Milli, Big Crit. Like, I need more of those Southern artists to get together and do stuff like that. But yeah, this album, really impressive. I have no problems with what Megan Thee Stallion's doing. I don't have any problem with how she's moving around. I think she's one of the best she's not up and coming anymore. But I think she's one of just the best rappers, period, coming right now. And if there is, an opening for the next generation of a big three, I think Megan Thee Stallion's name needs to be mentioned.
Thanks for watching, babe. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel.